them winning at all. I just thought you got to find somewhere where they're going to lose a game.
I'm not sure you do.
Are you saying sweep now?
I mean, I had him at 5. It's like, is a sweep that crazy after last night?
No, but it's tough in the finals.
Is it?
What was the last sweep?
I don't know. A few years ago, the Warriors swept the Cavs. Right? Didn't that happen? Am I making that up?
I believe that's true, but I forget what year it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but it happens in the finals. I don't know. LeBron got swept by the Spurs. Like, sweeps happen for sure. But I don't know. Like, do you feel like the Mavs were competitive last night? I don't.
2018 was the last sweep.
Okay.
So we're looking at 6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it happens often.
Okay, due factor. They're due, Arkin. They're due for a sweep in the finals. I don't know. Why is it crazy? I mean, Dallas showed nothing last night. They didn't show anything.
Right, they didn't. And I like big picture, I guess I would say, do you think that Dallas is going to shoot that poorly again?
Maybe.
I don't think that they'll shoot that poorly. And that's not to discredit. I don't want to come on here and discredit the Celtics because they were extremely strong last night. Definitely an A performance. As you said, Porziņģis, and as those highlights showed from Ryan Garvin's awesome production, Porziņģis was a revelation in the first half. He was so good. Like, I don't know if I just forgot that he could be that good because we haven't seen him play in a while, and because at different times he's deferential to the starting five that he's alongside with. But he was, I did not see that coming at all. That first half was just unbelievable, the way that he kept just going back and back and back, and that it was his former team. It was super fun to watch.
I thought it was a revelation seeing him out there. It changed the game when he checked in. It was about as efficient of a 21-minute stint as you could possibly have if you're a guy coming off the bench. I mean, he did everything out there. It was jarring how much better they looked. And I think that a lot of people, and myself included, all sort of had this idea that, you know, it's going to be tough for them without Porzingis in the finals. And we were thinking about Rudy Gobert, and we were thinking about Nikola Jokic and some of these other, you know, bigs that you're going to have to go through potentially in the Western Conference. And you don't necessarily have that here with Dallas, but you also sort of, in my opinion anyway, weren't expecting him to come out and be that good right away. I thought we were going to get maybe 20 minutes and maybe about half of the production that you saw there. Instead, he was really, I mean, he was a monster out there.
So I think I said 10-5 is what I'd expect out of him. I was like, you'll be lucky to get 10-5 out of him. He had 20-6, 8 out of 13 shooting. He lit it up last night, plus 13. And I agree, he changed the game. There were two portions of the game where you look back and you say those were key pivotal moments. One was that 17-5 surge in the first quarter, 5:24 left. He checks in. He goes 4 out of 5 from the floor, 11 points, 2 blocks. He had 3 in the game, I think, off the top of my head, but 2 in that stretch. He grabbed a couple of rebounds, 3 rebounds actually. Celtics lead balloons to 17 points. Again, he finishes the half with 18 points on 7 out of 9 shooting for the game, 20 on 8 out of 13 shooting. Third quarter, the game gets close. This is independent of Porzingis. Dallas goes on a 35-14 run. They cut the lead down to 8. Doncic is red hot. He's hitting everything. And Jalen starts to dominate in that third quarter. And the Celtics wind up 20 going into the fourth. And the game, for all intents and purposes, was pretty much over at that point. That was Dallas's push. They couldn't get any closer. So you can jump in on the phone, 617-779-7937. But I think those two stretches do a good job of illustrating key portions in the game and why you can have differing views on who was the MVP for the Celtics last night. Who was their most important player? Was it Porzingis? Was it Jalen, who was huge in that stretch in the third quarter? Was it Joe Mazzulla? That's an option we have up there. Or other, you can write it in. I'm hoping we don't get any Tatum write-ins, but you can write them in at Jones and Mego. You can also dial us up on the phone.
Sam Hauser.
You could write in again whoever you want. Besides Tatum, I would not. That's not an acceptable answer. But how'd you vote, Mego?
I voted Jaylen Brown. You just said it. In that third quarter, it only got down to an 8-point difference, but Luka was starting to heat up. Kyrie was finding a tiny bit, and Jaylen Brown just came in with that block on Kyrie Irving and not only just swatted him down and basically just like broke him on the floor to the point that Kyrie's crying to the refs and tries to go in for a layup right after, and he can't get that to fall. And then Jaylen goes down in the other end and just sinks a bucket from behind the arc, and he had this momentum behind him at different points in the game that doesn't get illustrated in the box score. Yeah, it shows that he had 3 blocks in the third quarter, and that really, I think, just stopped anything that Dallas could get going. But I thought that Jaylen overall was just the leader on the floor. Porzingis, as Arkan just said, revelation in the first half. Certainly, like, maybe the best performance in a half that I've seen by any Celtic in this entire playoff run by Porzingis. I feel like we'll remember that years from now, if/when the Celtics team wins the championship this year. We'll look back on that and his return and all the drama around it. But I also thought that very early in that game, as you said, the first quarter, when the Celtics are pulling away, Jalen picked off Luka twice. Like, his defense was on point, and he just kind of disrupted his rhythm very early. I thought kind of threw the Dallas offense off their game to the point where they go to this weird ISO basketball. So overall, I just thought that Jalen was really consistent, where some other guys were a little less consistent, and I'm sure we'll get to that with the Celtics. And once again, I'm just incredibly impressed by his postseason that he's been having.
Right, especially because you had the Celtics losing last night.
Yes.
Arkan, how'd you vote?
I voted for Joe Mazzulla, and I agree with everything Mego just said about Jaylen Brown. I thought he played a great game. He was the leading scorer.
Thank you.
He had 22 points, though, and that's not some kind of takeover game. Really, I thought he was better on defense, and you could maybe even say the same for Porzingis, although Porzingis offensively scored so much in such a small amount of time, but he was just such a difference maker in the paint. The reason why I'm going with Joe Mazzulla is because they held the Dallas Mavericks to 89 points. That is a team defense stat. That is something that they all did together. That is something that I don't think you can necessarily point to one guy or the other. Even as good as Porzingis was in the 21 minutes, he only played 21 minutes. So it's hard for me to say it was him. It's hard for me to say it was Jaylen Brown, who only had 22 points. It was definitely not Jason Tatum, and I don't think you can really give it to anybody else. Although I liked Sam Hauser off the bench last night for the first time in a while.
Hey, he shut down Kyrie.
He did. I mean, he was out there doing a lot of things, but that's sort of what it comes down to for me. I give Joe Mazzulla a lot of crap, and I thought he made a big impact in that game. I thought the timeout during that quick charge to get to 8 points in the third quarter was a great timeout there. I loved the different ways he attacked Luka Doncic. It was different defenders. It wasn't just one person, and I think that threw Luka off. Didn't throw a lot of double teams at him. They killed other teams when they did that, when they sent double teams. That was a big part of how Dallas got by the Clippers and how they got by Oklahoma City. They were able to take that apart. Celtics stuck with that, and that was Mazzulla. So I'm giving him credit. I thought he had a tremendous game plan. That was a haymaker there in the first quarter, bringing Porzingis off the bench. Another move that I really liked so much I got choked up there. And he's the MVP for me just
you
now.
Didn't hear that?
You didn't just hear that? Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like while you were watching, you started crying to your TV, and I was like, that's kind of weird.
No,
like
not
when
quite.
Mike Gorman was signing off.
When they win it all, that may happen, but not after game one. Anyway, Mazzulla's my MVP.
So just looking over it, I mean, the one defender that Doncic, quote-unquote, struggled with, he got up 8 shots in like a minute. And they were all threes, but it was Al Horford. He was 1 for 8 against Horford. Really, none of the other defenders had much success on Doncic when you dig in, and that includes Jalen, but throwing different bodies at him, and he only had 1 assist last night.
Right.
And Jason Kidd talked about this after the game. The ball stuck. I think they had 9 as a team, if I'm not mistaken.
Man, somebody needs to help Jason Kidd out.
Why?
Because this is going to get very girly. He needs to go on one of those like old TLC shows where you give somebody a makeover.
Oh, a makeover. I don't care about that. But so Jason Kidd last night, he talked about this on Doncic's passes. Dallas was 1 for 6. They had 209 total passes as a team all night. That's the fewest in any game, regular season or playoffs, since player tracking began in 2013-2014. Dallas also had 9 assists as a team compared to 11. Doncic had 1 assist. I'm sure you saw this on the broadcast last night, a career playoff low. So I don't want to say encouraged him to shoot, but they definitely discouraged the passing. You know, I can think of one play. Porzingis got a foul on it last night, but there was a play where they tried the lob to Derek Lively. Porzingis undercut him. It was the right call and everything, but you could really illustrate how the Celtics were taking away that lob. They were not going to let it happen. They weren't going to let it happen. They're like, Doncic will get his. We're not going to cheat off. We're not going to let him find open shooters. We're not going to let him throw the lob. And that worked. For one night, that worked. I imagine Dallas is going to have an adjustment, and we'll see what the Celtics do off of that.
They better.
No, I would hope.
It'll be a quick series if they don't.
But I would imagine Luka, anyway, will adjust. Like, he's not going to have 1 assist again, and he's going to start figuring out how to get other players involved. I would bank on that for game 2. That doesn't mean Dallas wins or anything.
Right.
But I would bank on that.
And it probably won't take him 26 shots to get to 30 points again, you know? Like, he's usually a more efficient scorer than that.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
But did you think efficiency was a problem last night?
For Luka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I didn't
During the surges where they were getting back in the game, he was hitting all those threes. But I thought in general, like offensively, he wasn't.
I thought he was.
He didn't look
pretty-
like his normal self.
I thought he was pretty streaky.
I mean,
in the first quarter,
first-
he was calling to get taken out of the game.
The first
I
half, he
understand.
looked like
Yeah.
he got like shot with one of those darts that makes you pass out.
He shot almost 50%, and he hit a third of his threes. So like, not that that's great, but I didn't think that was like outrageous. I didn't think he had any help, is what I think.
That's true.
And so Arcan votes Missoula. You vote Jalen. I'll go with the obvious one, which I definitely think is the right answer, but it's obvious. Porziņģis. So I think they beat this team either way, with or without Porziņģis. I think they would have beat the Nuggets with or without him. I think they would have beat Minnesota, Oklahoma City. Pick your team. I think they would have beat them regardless. But now we're talking about a potential sweep. And we're talking about Dallas being a speed bump for the Celtics en route to Banner 18. That's the difference to me. They'd win this series either way. I thought Horford was pretty good last night, to be honest. He was good on Doncic.
Mm-hmm.
He was good offensively last night. Who knows? He just had a week and a half off, so obviously he's got a little extra spring in his leg. I don't know if that would be the case for game 2 or 3 or 4 or as the series goes on. But to me, Porzingis is the answer. He turned the game in the first half. And so, yeah, Jalen stemmed the tide in the third quarter. They were already up 20-whatever earlier in the game. They already had the Mavs on the ropes. It didn't take much to shove them back out. Porzingis is the one who changed the game last night. He was a massive difference maker, and I was wrong. I just didn't think he would have that much that quickly. I just didn't believe it. Stupid me, but I didn't believe it. So I voted Porzingis. I think it's the obvious answer, but the right answer.
I thought he was pretty special, so I can understand your vote completely. I think that for Jaylen Brown, I don't know, maybe it's me doing a little bit of a make good because for the last 2 years, basically since the 2022 playoffs run, I've been like, oh my God, Jalen, spend less time in the swimming pool, holding your breath and paddling along with flippers on your feet and get out there and work on your ball handling. And now he just looks awesome. And every game, I'm just like, he can't do it again. He can't keep up this intensity. He can't keep up this defense going back and forth on both ends of the court. And it's not just him. We have to get to what Drew Holiday did with Kyrie Irving because I thought that was really special too, and I know we will. But I just want to give him his flowers.
What did you say in my ear there, Ryan, about Porzingis?
Oh, it's almost like he wasn't really that hurt after all.
Yeah.
And then they
So
were just resting him for the finals.
So what does
They
that
could
mean?
roll through the Eastern Conference without him.
So it was all a charade?
Secret
Yeah.
weapon.
So
Secret weapon.
I'm not doubting that he got hurt against the Cavaliers, but I think he could have played against the Pacers if they needed him.
definitely game
And,
4.
and last night was
I don't think
just
that at all.
obvious
I
that
do.
that's what they were doing.
I don't think that at all.
What about last night indicated to you that he was?
I don't know, but it was
anything.
It was an
lingering?
extra 10 days, Mego.
I know, but still, in watching him play, there was not even a moment when he was playing around the rim or anything where I'm like, oh, crap, careful, which is how I felt watching Rob Williams his entire career. Like, oh, no. Oh, no. It's like watching somebody back out of a parallel parking space. Never felt that way with Porzingis at any point in that game.
I'll say this. It does look better for Porzingis if he acts like, hey, I'm not all the way ready, and then he goes out there and dominates. That looks better for him than, the team just decided to bench me for a whole series even though I could have played.
Yeah,
that
100%.
looks better for him to sort of play it that way,
100%.
if that's what he was doing.
Meanwhile, this was a weird exchange. You catch this last night? This is Missoula. He was asked after the game about the Porzingis decision. Why'd you bring him off the bench? All these things. Let's hear it.
Joe, when did you make the decision to bring Kristaps off the bench, and did you have to have a conversation with him about that, and how did that go?
I always talk to the players about what we think is best for the team, and, that's that. Yeah.
And when did you make that decision?
I don't know. I can't remember.
This was the plan all along.
I don't know. I can't
believe
remember.
that.
When
So
did you
weird.
decide to bring him off the bench? So if he's so healthy, why didn't they start him?
I don't know. I can't remember.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys are like, oh, he's healthy. He wasn't hurt. He could have played in game 4 against Cleveland. Then why didn't they start him?
I'm saying, did he look like he was unhealthy to you? Did it look
No.
like there was anything lingering?
No.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Okay,
I don't
but
know
I-
how you can argue with
Okay,
that.
I'm
But he
not
only played 20 minutes,
Yeah,
too.
Mego, I'm not arguing with that.
Yeah.
You said you thought he could play in the Cleveland
I
series.
think
That's
he
what I'm
could.
arguing.
I think he could.
Well, let's-
Judging by who he was last night, it doesn't look like something that just recovered in the last
I'm sorry.
6 days.
I said Cleveland series. Indiana is what I meant. But regardless, I don't think he would
He
have been
could
back
have
for that.
played in the Cleveland series.
And Arkan, I know he played 20 minutes, but did they need him to play more than 20? That game was never in question. I mean, it got
Okay,
close,
well, did
but
they need Jason Tatum to play 42 minutes? No, I didn't need any of that at the end. I mean, they were up by so much, but he only played a certain amount of time.
Let me put a pin in that question. But why was Tatum in at the end? We can get to that.
That's a good question. But
Finals MVP.
No, I mean, I think
Gatekeeping
it was
Steve Mikhailuk.
it was 100% stat padding is what he was attempting to do at the end of the game.
And he couldn't.
We'll get to that. Meanwhile, how about Kyrie Irving This whole thing was just ridiculous. Mego, you were there for it.
Don't get me started.
Well, let's hear him first, and then let's get your reaction on the backside. Here's Kyrie Irving discussing the crowd at the Garden, which he's been talking about all week.
No, I mean, it's basketball at the end of the day. Being in this environment, I'm used to it at this point. Early in my career, there was a different relationship that I had with Boston, just being able to come here, be settled with a veteran group. Now I'm here as the veteran. Over the past few years, just experiencing the playoffs here, even regular season, it's been the same thing. I thought it was going to be a little louder in here, but I'm expecting the same things going into Game 2. Crowd trying to get me out of my element, my teammates out of my element. But again, the energy's got to be focused towards the game. I felt like I had a lot of great looks. They hit back rim, or they were just a little left or right. So I just got to stay confident and stay poised throughout this, man. This is the best time of the year to be playing. It's only 2 teams left. Let's put it in perspective. So the environment's going to be what it is, but my focus is on our game plan and making sure my guys feel confident and I feel confident, and continue to shoot great shots.
Okay, continue to shoot great shots. It's just, there's only 2 teams left. Let's put it in perspective. 12 points, 6 out of 19 shooting, 0 for 5 from 3. He was a minus 19 last night. Apparently, he was going back and forth with a fan in the stands.
Did you see that on TV?
No,
I didn't see it.
I did not. Yeah. So that's why I said apparently. But apparently, he was going back and forth. After the game, he brings up, if you didn't see the visual, he brought a basketball up with him. Like it was Wilson and Castaway. He brought it up with him like he had his own little buddy up there, or his own pet or something like that.
I call him Kyrie Jr.
That he brought up with him, which is just weird. And then he says he thought the Garden would have been louder. What the hell's that?
No, it was weirder than that, Jones. I had to check with somebody after the fact because I was in the press conference room, and I'm like, did he do the thing that I thought he did? He did this little skit when he was walking up to the podium where he has the basketball with him, and he goes over to a female staffer. And he tries to hand her the basketball, and she's just confused. This is in front of all the media, which is mostly Dallas media. There's me and a couple other Boston reporters in there. And he hands her the basketball, and she's like, what? And he goes loud enough so that people could hear, and I don't think any of the recorders picked this up, but he goes, oh, I could use an assist tonight. And then he yanks the basketball back and goes, because, I didn't shoot so well.
No,
and then
he
goes up to the podium and to the little stage and starts his press conference. And I was just like, come on.
Everyone laughing at a funny joke.
I was
Kyrie,
were you practicing that in the hallway?
Probably.
You're walking down, you're like, hey, toss me that basketball. I got something that's going to win
This could be
everybody over.
hilarious.
This is the new Kyrie. Don't you love it?
this one's going to kill. Kyrie led the team in assists with 2.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew Doncic had 1. That's crazy. And they only had 9, so that makes sense.
Well, he had 3 turnovers. So.
But no, I think so. If he's trying to say that the crowd wasn't on him, I mean, Mego, you were there. I wasn't. It didn't sound that way on TV. It sounded very loud in the arena.
It got really bad.
It didn't sound like they were on him like crazy.
So in that third quarter, once Jalen had that swat, it started getting pretty brutal to the point where I'm going to be totally honest. There was a point where the chants were so overwhelming that
Kyrie.
Against Kyrie.
Yeah.
That I felt like a little bad.
Okay. Well,
I was like,
I wouldn't feel bad.
This feels mean.
Here's
They
all
were
I know.
underselling it on the TV
Well, that's what I was going to say.
It was horrible.
Okay, well,
at one
this is what
point.
I'm saying. If you're watching at home like I was.
Awesome, depending on your perspective.
I thought it was going to be a little louder in here.
If you're watching at home like I was, it didn't come through because it didn't sound loud to Kyrie. The building sounded loud, but the Kyrie stuff did not sound loud to me.
It got worse as the game went on. And by worse, I mean louder
So maybe,
against him.
Maybe that's what he's talking about. Maybe he thought he'd get it wire to wire. Maybe that's what he's talking about. But whatever it is, it's a dig at Boston.